Tonight, the not proven verdict is scrapped. It's the biggest change to Scotland's legal system in decades. Families of victims have welcomed the news, saying it's long overdue.
We're all absolutely pleased that it's seen the light of day finally, and we go to a proper two-verdict system.
Also making the headlines, a man is found guilty of murdering his wife after he posted about it on social media. A royal welcome for Donald Trump. His historic state visit gets underway with a military spectacle, but a mixed reception from the public.
Very, very important, simply because, America and UK, they are allies.
And I can see King Charles being put in a awkward situation to entertain Trump.
And in sport, it's silver for Scotland's Jake Whiteman at the World Championships in a dramatic race. I'm John Mackay. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. It's the biggest change in the Scottish legal system for decades. MSPs have voted to scrap the controversial not proven verdict. They've passed a bill aimed at improving victims' experiences. The Justice Secretary has described the change as long overdue. Our senior reporter Gordon Cree is at the Scottish Parliament. Gordon, how did we get here?
Well, John, for 300 years, Scotland has been in this unique position of having two acquittal verdicts, not guilty and not proven. And while there's never been any official difference between what they mean, many people have their own ideas about the emphasis. Some say it's a suggestion that jurors think the person did it, but they're not convinced by all the evidence. Others say it's a cop-out. In recent years, campaigners around sexual offences have said it's been used disproportionately in those cases, while the family of Amanda Duffy, who was murdered in Hamilton in 1992, have campaigned for more than 30 years on this issue. They say it was unfair on both the accused and victims' families. In her case, the man accused of killing her was found not proven. And that campaign came in the light of a lot of opposition from members of the legal profession.
We had this mad idea way back in 1992 that people might actually have the sense to see that we're talking sense. And I know the establishment never wanted this and didn't want to hear from us. That's been pretty clear for 30 odd years. But guess what? We're here. It's been passed, and to say I'm pleased is probably this year's understatement. But as a family, my members of my family are here, and we're all absolutely pleased that it's seen the light of day finally, and we go to a proper two-verdict system with a clear, proper mandate for the juries to operate on, and everybody benefits from a well-run legal system.
I think this is a momentous day. I was in the public gallery with rape survivors who have campaigned for these changes, with families of people who have been murdered, and the emotion in the gallery was so strong. People were so anxious about whether or not this bill was going to pass because they have worked so hard for it. And I would just like to thank all the survivors and the families who have contributed to this. I think this is a really important day, making some really important changes to our justice system in Scotland.
So Gordon, a massive change. How quickly will it be implemented?
Well, it won't happen overnight. The bill will require royal assent, which will take several weeks, and then there will be discussions around a timetable for introducing the change 2 to the majority needed to secure a conviction and communication with victims and their families about their cases. But the law has changed, the practice will follow. It is a very significant day for criminal justice. John.
Gordon at the Scottish Parliament, thank you. A man who stabbed his wife to death in their North Berwick home and posted about it on social media is facing life in prison after being found guilty of her murder. Ketsofili Naso Isaacs was attacked by Mompati Dodo Isaacs on New Year's Day in 2024 because he suspected the mother of three was having an affair. Our reporter Lewis Mickey has more.
Ketsofili Isaacs, known as Nazo, was a mother of three living in North Berwick and a support worker for people with disabilities. She lived with her husband, Mompati Dodo Isaacs. They met in their native Botswana. On the morning of January 1st, 2024, she was stabbed to death by Isaacs in their home on North Berwick's Craigleaf Avenue. He stabbed her 9 times to the head, neck and body. Isaacs had believed his wife was having an affair with a colleague, Victor Onachukwu. Nazo and her husband had been drinking to celebrate Hogmanay the night before, and Isaacs had discovered messages on Nazo's phone. Onachukwu denied an affair when giving evidence, despite a number of sexually suggestive text messages between the pair being shown in court. Isaacs had made this post on his Facebook page on the morning of January 1st. He said Onachukwu had destroyed his marriage and that Nazo had been respectful and obedient before moving to the UK. In court, defence KC Gareth Jones did not argue that Isaacs had not killed Nazo, but urged the jury to find him guilty of culpable homicide rather than murder. He said potential mitigating factors were diminished responsibility due to abnormality of mind and provocation due to infidelity. 2 expert witnesses in the trial confirmed Isaacs suffered from a depressive disorder but disagreed on the severity. But today the jury of 14 came to a majority verdict, finding Isaacs guilty of murdering his wife. Isaacs bowed his head in the dock as Judge Lady Ross told him he now faces a life sentence. She said that Nazo Isaacs had died at the hands of someone with whom she should have felt safe. Judge Lady Ross said that sentencing will now take place on the 3rd of November. Lewis Mickey, STV News at the High Court in Edinburgh.
Donald Trump has been given the full royal welcome at the start of his historic second state visit to the UK. The US President and the King spent the day together at Windsor Castle, where the ceremonies took place behind closed doors, far from the protests in central London. Our Westminster correspondent Paris Koutsayanis is there. And Paris, how has it all gone?
Well, John, both Donald Trump and the UK government want this visit to be all about the pomp and ceremony. And today, that's exactly what they got. A visually spectacular welcome for the president and a spectacular royal welcome for the president. And behind these castle walls, he won't have heard a whisper of protest. Not that there were many protesters here in Windsor. They were massively outnumbered by police and media and curious onlookers. The main anti-Trump protest march took place far away in London. We haven't heard either from the president or the King, but they will be speaking later at the state banquet, and we have seen guests begin to arrive. The real business begins tomorrow when the Prime Minister and the President sit down to talks. Today was all about giving Donald Trump the royal treatment. Touching down for a royal welcome. Donald Trump was met at the steps of Marine One by the Prince and Princess of Wales, before being greeted by the King and Queen. The pomp and ceremony began with a grand carriage procession through the castle grounds, a gun salute, and the largest troop review ever staged for a visiting leader. There was also a nod to President Trump's Scottish roots. Today's pageantry is all taking place inside the walls of Windsor Castle to protect President Trump from security threats and protest. Those began last night with images of Donald Trump and the convicted child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein projected onto Windsor Castle. 4 people have been arrested on suspicion of malicious communication. The itinerary keeps the president far from the main protests in London, where tens of thousands marched to Parliament Square and held a rally.
Donald Trump's not welcome here!
Here in Windsor, the handful of protesters and supporters were outnumbered by police and confused tourists.
We're really wondering why the King is sucking up to Trump, to be honest. Well, we're actually very, very, very disappointed because we booked this a long, long time ago and we've come a long way, 24 hours to get here, and we were cancelled. So, anyway, we'll look at the palace from the outside.
Very, very important, simply because, America and UK, they are allies.
And you say you're a super fan of the royal family. Are you also a super fan of Donald Trump?
Oh, yes. I'm a super fan of Donald Trump.
I can see King Charles being put in a awkward situation to entertain Trump.
Tonight, John Swinney is among the guests for a ceremonial state banquet. Tomorrow comes the politics, talks between the president and the prime minister, and a press conference, an unscripted moment at the end of a symbolic and ceremonial visit. Paris Koutsayanis, STV News, Windsor.
An advert by the UK's largest Sunbed company has been banned following complaints that it was misleading and socially irresponsible. The Stirling-based company Indigo Sun agreed to take the video down and pledged to promote responsible tanning following the ban by the Advertising Standards Authority. Caitlin Hutchison reports.
For years, tanning has been sold as glamour, beauty, even a boost for your health. But the risk of developing skin cancer from exposure to the sun is widely acknowledged among scientists.
Growing up, we were always taught that being tanned was beautiful. If I'd have known the risks back then, would I have made different choices?
Adele started Sunbeds at 16. By 39, she was diagnosed with stage 3 melanoma, a cancer doctors told her was almost certainly caused by UV exposure. She's called adverts that ignore the risks disgusting. This one has now been banned.
A recent University of Edinburgh study revealed that UV exposure provides a net health benefit.
I get really, really frustrated when I see adverts like this. It would be wonderful to see images in these places like we do get on cigarette packaging, just to show the dangers and what could happen to you if you continue to use these sunbeds.
An official complaint about this ad was raised by an NHS doctor earlier this year, who says skin cancer rates are rising hugely.
Sunbeds are categorically not good for you. We know that just using a sunbed once in your lifetime can raise your risk of skin cancer by up to 75%. Australia, Iran, Brazil have all banned sunbeds completely. Ireland are now talking about it too, and hopefully Scotland is going to follow next. There is no safe way to get tan unless it's fake.
The Advertising Standards Authority ruled that Indigo Sun's online advert was misleading by claiming sunbeds brought major health benefits without properly warning about the risks. It said it exaggerated claims of reduced cancer and heart disease, relying on limited evidence from one study that wasn't designed to prove health benefits, and it concluded that it was irresponsible.
I think they're terrible. I actually think they should be banned.
I don't go on them that often. A few of my friends do it, but I think it's just they want a tan, everyone likes to be tanned.
I'm a person with eczema and a lot of people have recommended it, but never really been.
Indigo Sun says it accepts the ruling and will remove the advert, but insists its claims were based on peer-reviewed science from the University of Edinburgh. A spokesperson there says further studies are needed to build a clearer picture. Caitlin Hutchison, STV News.
The Scottish Government has been accused of vaccinating to the bare minimum as the winter rollout of flu vaccines begins today. The eligibility criteria for the COVID booster has risen from the age 65 to age 75. But charities that represent the elderly fear these measures will be counterintuitive in tackling hospital admissions. Amy Flett reports.
Olivia is in for her flu jab. As someone with severe asthma, getting vaccinated is a top priority.
I've had flu in the past and ended up in intensive care with it because it made my asthma worse. So to me, it's a no-brainer.
At the beginning of this year, flu deaths reached their highest level in 40 years. During the last winter vaccination programme, the eligibility age for a free flu jab was raised from 50 to 65, returning to pre-pandemic levels.
Now that we are post-pandemic, things are different. And so that age group, that 50 to 64, are not as high risk as they would have been during the pandemic.
The rollout of the COVID booster won't begin until the start of next month, but there are questions about the change in the eligibility criteria this year.
Unpaid carers have fallen out of that eligibility criteria, as are those over between ages of 65 and 74. Why would you protect against one illness and not against another?
In this cafe, it's caused some confusion.
I have become kind of used to it. I'm over 70 now, so over 65. I would expect these things to come my way.
If a person needs a flu vaccine, then surely they're susceptible to COVID.
It's really unfortunate because I think they both can be potentially very serious illnesses.
COVID has changed since the early days of the pandemic. Almost everybody has come into contact with COVID vaccine. So there's now a background immunity that most people will have. So there's been a refocusing of the programme to those who are really at greatest risk of severe disease.
The NHS is urging all those eligible for either a flu jab or a COVID booster to get one to ensure they're fully prepared for the winter ahead. Amy Flett, STV News, Edinburgh.
Human remains discovered on the shores of Loch Lomond have been identified as a man reported missing from Glasgow almost a month ago. Police say the remains found near Firkin Point belong to 38-year-old Graham Wright. Detectives are treating the death as unexplained. Air support and search dogs have been helping with the investigation, and anyone with information has been urged to contact the police. Sexual harassment is endemic in Scottish workplaces, according to the union Unite, who say the Worker Protection Act, which came into force last year, has failed women and doesn't go far enough. The union's own research suggests nearly 10% of women in Scotland have experienced sexual harassment at work. Tara Fitzpatrick reports.
If you asked any of my female colleagues at the time, describe this person in one word, they would all say creepy.
When Katie was 19 and working in a Glasgow supermarket, she heard warnings from other women about the behaviour of an older male colleague.
He'd still make very creepy comments. He'd be very close to us. When he was following me around, he was in my personal space. When again, I was just trying to do my job.
On one occasion, working a shift alone with him, he showed her pornography.
He was stuck to my side, and I remember it very vividly. He showed me his phone, and it was, quite graphic. I do not want to see that. And then he starts telling me details about who it's depicting, and it's disgusting. I don't want to see that. You kind of force yourself to always be smiling and always be nice and always, oh, it's no worries, it's no worries. And that bleeds into allowing things to happen that shouldn't.
Katie's experience is one of many. The trade union Unite say a lack of protection against sexual harassment at work is failing employees.
I think it's a workplace culture. A lot of the time I think that this whole thing about it being banter and it just being about this person's character and how they behave, and I think that women maybe feel if they're the one to address it and to bring it forward, they're going to be penalised, as can quite often be the case.
A survey found around 10% of women had been sexually assaulted at work. Of those, over 52% of union members had been subjected to sexually offensive jokes. Over 45% had experienced unwanted flirting or sexual remarks. Around 4 in 10 had been inappropriately touched, and 13% had been shown pornographic images by a manager or colleague. It's been almost 1 year since the Worker Protection Act came into force across the UK. It now makes it law for employers to prevent rather than just respond to sexual harassment at work.
What the new legislation did was introduce a new proactive duty on employers to take reasonable steps to prevent sexual harassment at work. And certainly we've seen employers really sit up and take notice and look at how best their organisation can tackle the employer's obligations. Now, that's not to say that that will be the case for all employers. So there will be employers who perhaps are not aware of the changes to the legislation, or for whatever reason the changes don't feature high on their agenda.
The UK government say the new employment rights bill to be introduced in a few weeks will increase protections for employees who report sexual harassment. It will also make employers responsible for harassment by third parties like customers. For Katie, reporting the incident did lead to consequences.
They made sure that I wasn't on shift with him, and then I think he ended up getting fired over it because other people had made complaints.
Tara Fitzpatrick, STV News.
Now Ronnie has the sport.
Your window to sport. CR Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Yes, a very good evening. We start with a dramatic night in athletics, and Scotland's Jake Whiteman was beaten on the line as he looked to claim the men's 1500 metre title at the World Championships in Japan. But it was heartache for fellow Scot and defending champion Josh Kerr, who ended up last after an injury. Stephen Brown can describe the action.
The last two 1500 metre world titles have been won by Scots, and with 3 in the final in Tokyo, there was every chance of making it a hat-trick. Not since 2019 had defending champion Josh Kerr and fellow Scotsman Neil Gourley and Jake Whiteman run together in the final. Whiteman, who's struggled with injury since he won the title in the US 3 years ago, looked comfortable and confident sitting behind the leaders in the opening stages. But as the pace started to increase, Kerr and Gourley found themselves towards the back of the pack. Midway through the race though, and heartache for Kerr, pulling up with an injury, and while he kept pushing to finish the race, his hopes had gone. In the final lap, Jake Whiteman picked up the pace and headed for the front. As he came down the home straight, the Scot seemed in control. He looked set to claim his second world title, but as he reached for the line, Portugal's Isaac Nader stretched to claim gold.
I left everything out on that track today, tried to win it, and I was rewarded with a silver, which in a lot of ways it's worth more than the gold I won before. So it's going to take a while for this to sit in and just I got to reflect on how far I've come, but at the moment I'm very grateful that I've been able to get back to this point.
Stephen Brown, STV Sport.
Now to football and the growing fan anger at Rangers, which is set to go up a notch this weekend after supporters groups announced a protest ahead of their League Cup match with Hibs. After the 2-0 defeat to Hearts, fans are calling for Russell Martin to be sacked, with many insisting Chief Executive Patrick Stewart should follow suit. It's expected many will vote with their feet and not attend the match. Martin insists, though, he won't resign. Now, Celtic legend Tom Boyd hopes Sunday's last-minute win over Kilmarnock can be a light that shines across the club. After weeks of fan unrest and protest, supporters boycotted the first 12 minutes of the game at Rugby Park, but Boyd says the champions are in a good place on the pitch.
2, 1. Breaking ground on a new £1 million pitch in Blantyre. Tom Boyd, as well as a few other famous faces, picking up a spade as Blantyre Soccer Academy begins construction on a 3G pitch to serve the local community. But despite all focus today being on the pitch, for Celtic of late, it's matters off the pitch dominating the headlines. With fan protests at the running of the club, including Sunday's boycott at Kelly, Boyd hopes a winning feeling on the pitch can help the champions heal.
For actually to stand up in your debut and take a penalty like that it says a lot for his character. Hopefully a light to spread throughout the club at this moment in time. And because we're at the moment not in a bad position with the disappointing result of the Champions League, and I think that did affect everybody. Bring on the games. Last minute victories don't do a lot for you right enough, but we'll take them if they come like that.
A local to Blantyre, Boyd hopes the new 3G pitch can bring new life to the area.
It's not just about the playing of the football, it's more about everybody coming together, a community coming together, and it's a fantastic facility that they've got here, or will have once it all gets done up.
It's absolutely fantastic for them to actually have somewhere to call their own, and not just for the Blantyre Soccer Academy, but for the whole community, because it brings such a cohesion of parents and children coming together for all walks of life, whether they've got money, they've not got money, whatever they've got. It's absolutely fantastic.
Construction of the pitch is hoped to be concluded by April.
Kilmarnock boss Stuart Kettlewell says the SFA have set the standard for what is a penalty after that controversial VAR handball decision against Celtic. This was the incident at the weekend that angered Kettlewell, adjudged to be a penalty by John Beaton after a VAR review. The Kelly boss says he now expects many more sport kicks this season.
We see an awful lot of penalties and a lot that people are going to be really frustrated by, and this is where I now do sit. So you talk about having that conversation the Monday after the game, now where I'll sit and everything I'll question is, if those incidents aren't given as penalties, then that one was wrong. And I would be amazed if you speak to any clubs that want that to be given as a penalty. But now I believe we've set a standard in what's going to be a penalty.
Finally, Neil Lennon hopes Dunfermline's return to winning ways will be the perfect preparation for taking on table-topping St Johnstone on Friday. The Pars defeated Arbroath 5-0 at the weekend. Lennon's side sit 5th in the league and travel to McDermott Park, hoping to kick-start a charge up the championship standings.
It was important to win against Arbroath, after a defeat and then, a last-minute draw. It was good to get the 3 points, and it sets us up nicely for Friday. But I'm not really too concerned about the table because it's sort of so congested at the minute, and what you want to do is like Thistle have done, go on a wee run where you can win maybe 2 or 3 in a row, and it sort of rockets you up the table.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
That's a lot of sport tonight, John. That's
That
me
was
away
a
for a
lot
lie
of
down.
sport and athletics, the full works.
We do our bit. We do our bit,
fire.
folks.
Thank you.
That's us.
The weather now, been a bit of a mixed bag, Philip, but it's going to get colder. Temperatures going down.
Yes, John. Well, it's the perils of being a weather presenter. You're praised for the sunshine and then cursed for the wind and the rain. It's my fault. And to complete the full bad weather roundup, we have dropping temperatures as we head towards the weekend. Today, we've seen highs of around 18 or 19 degrees Celsius in places, which is above average for the time of year. Those higher temperatures continue through Thursday and Friday, but then with a northerly airflow developing come the weekend, a marked change out and about Saturday, Sunday and Monday with highs of only 12 or 13. Let's look at the forecast.
A clear start makes way for a day of ancient discoveries. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, yes, after a fairly grey, murky and damp day for many of us, tonight the main focal point will be the strengthening winds, particularly around western coastal parts with that low pressure system just off to the west coast. We'll also continue to see blustery scattered showers in the west. Further south and east, however, this is where we'll see the best of any drier conditions tonight, but there is still a bit of cloud around. So with the cloud and the strength of the winds, temperatures not dropping too far, most places in double figures, lows of around 12 or 13 degrees Celsius. So that means that tomorrow morning it will be a fairly mild start to the day. The best of the brightness will be again in the south and east first thing tomorrow morning. Remaining windy throughout the course of the afternoon, and then later on we've got this next frontal system creeping in from the south. That's bringing with it a band of cloud and some further outbreaks of rain. Temperature-wise tomorrow reaching highs of 17 or 18 degrees Celsius, but feeling fresher out and about because of the strength of those winds. Looking ahead to Friday, that frontal system that moved in overnight Thursday will have cleared to the north. We're still seeing some showers, mainly around the coasts. Further inland, however, it will be a drier afternoon to come and we will see plenty of sunny spells. There will be some high-level cloud around though, so a lot of that sunshine will turn hazy with highs of around 17.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
So turning chilly towards the weekend, I have some good news tomorrow though, John.
Yeah, I will believe it. From all of us, thanks for watching. Good night.